we're gonna watch here this dungeon build. It is crazy. Try a unique archetype with tons of synergy by Auroth. Let's go check it out. We are wizard right now.
Hello guys, Auroth here and a warm welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm gonna show you my favorite wizard challenge dungeon build.
Alright.
And before beginning I urge you to please subscribe to my channel if you find my content
Already
useful.
am, boy.
My girlfriend has promised me she will treat me to something very special if I manage to reach 10,000 subscribers.
Alright, okay, we don't Alright, too much information, but alright, hey, I'll take it.
So yeah, I really look forward to see what she has planned.
Maybe with a bow?
Let's move on and talk about this build a little bit.
Chat, if you guys subscribe right now, my wife also, she has a beautiful gift for me at 10k, so smash that subscriber button, man.
What I like about this build is that it's very simple to use.
Alright, like it?
It's not the highest single target DPS, but it's very efficient when you want to kill off all the adds in a dungeon, while it at the same time deal great damage against the bosses as well. What I also like about the build is that it's not something that you have seen before. This is a new type of archetype. I've not seen anyone else play it.
Good.
And it actually performs better than any other challenge dungeon build I've tried out in terms of total damage output in a dungeon run. So let's move on and start by taking a look at the skills I'm using.
Sounds good. So the question is gonna be at the end, is this gonna be better than the Maul build? Because like, hey, I love Maul, okay? But that build, it's like this. Okay, 10 million DPS.
As primary attack, I use
10 million
electric
DPS.
heat. In the first skill slot, I use slow time. In the second skill slot, I use frost field. In the third skill slot, I use disintegrate. And in the fourth and final skill slot, I use ice armor.
Wait,
if we take a look at the set pieces I'm using 2 pieces of wildfire imperative, because this will give my wildfire a little...
Okay, I don't wanna play this build. I don't wanna farm a new set. I don't wanna farm a new set, boys. No, not again, not another one. Jed, do you guys ever have that feeling that you watch the video of like a build that you're very excited about, and then it's like you reach to the green set and it's like tears start dropping just because you don't want to go back to farm them?
A bit of a buff. So wildfire happens whenever you use a wind skill onto a burning enemy. And with this build, we will both apply burn effects, but we will also apply a lot of wind damage. So it's a good set to buff the damage a little bit. I also use 2 pieces of Victor Surge because I want to prolong a beneficial effect duration by 30%. And finally, I use 4 pieces of Grace because this will increase my damage quite a lot. Let's continue and take a look at the SSS.
Man, the male wizard looks so bad. I'm sorry. Maybe Auroth's girlfriend doesn't let him play with a goddess wizard female, but this one looks terrible, man.
I'm using. In the helmet slot, I use Ephemeral Visage, and what it says is that slow time now increases your attack and movement speed, while also causing your continual damage and persistent ground damage effects to deal damage faster. And I have a lot of these effects in this build, and I'm going to list them a little bit later when we have gone through all of the essences. In the chest slot, I use 4 Demon Vestment, and this essence is very cool. And here we have to go to the skill page to see what it does. So if I scroll down here to Frostfield, we can read that thanks to this chest, Frostfield now generates an elemental aura around 6 seconds.
Oh, I saw this. I think I don't have it yet. Please let me have it. I don't think I have this one. So applies the burn,
triggering additional elemental effects when an enemy is burned, chilled,
this looks like
frozen,
a crazy,
shocked, or upon taking wind damage. So what are these effects? First, we have the burn effect that generates a molten eruption, dealing damage to all enemies within the area, and this can occur once every second. And then we have the chill or freeze effect that will unleash an ice spike, dealing damage to all nearby enemies while also freezing them for 2 seconds. Each enemy can only be frozen once every 5 seconds, but this is not an issue in dungeons because most of the monsters...
Does this proc everything at the same time, or there's like a cycle, like a rotation?
Will be dead within that time frame, and this effect can also occur every second. The third effect is shock, and whatever happens when I apply a shock effect to a target is that I will conjure a lightning storm that follows nearby enemies for 3 seconds, dealing damage every second to all enemies caught in its path. And this cannot occur more often than once every 3 seconds. But this means that the effect will be active for 3 seconds, so it's going to be up all the time as well, as you will see when we play. The final effect is called wind damage. So what it does is that it will conjure a tornado whenever you deal wind damage to an enemy. And this tornado will follow nearby enemies for 3 seconds, also dealing damage every second to all enemies caught in its path. And this can also occur once every 3 seconds, but this will also be up all the time, because the effect has a duration. So this essence is very cool, and I really wanted to build something that utilizes all of these effects at once. And that's why this build can perform so well. We can also take a look here that when I use Frostfield, the range is very big. So you can see now the fire around me and the ice. It's a huge area of effect.
Yo! Okay, it's this side. I can see it here.
And yeah, so it will hit a lot of targets at once when we're running challenge dungeons. So it's very, very cool. If we continue here in the shoulder slot, I use field defense.
Okay, I use this one.
And what it says is that Disintegrate now surrounds you with an entropy field that follows you, damaging and making nearby enemies vulnerable to critical hits. So whenever I use Disintegrate, I will have this AoE effect, and whenever I hit a target, it will also make me deal more critical hits to that target. And this will
look at the damage that Auroth does. It just says this. That's
also help my teammates to deal more critical hits. So it's not only a good skill for myself, it's also a good skill for my teammates.
Sometimes, I'll be honest, man, I usually have my character all the time focus for PvP, okay? I min-max everything for PvP, but sometimes I watch like these DPS videos and I'm like, man, maybe I should start just like focusing only on PvE and build up like the best free-to-play, you know, character for PvE as possible. Because like those are very different, and especially for me that I keep like switching classes, I cannot always be carrying like my PvE gear and my PvP gear, and that's like so annoying.
In the pants slot, I use Greaves of the Firmament, and what it says is that Disintegrate deals extra damage every 3 hits. And yeah, if you see a pattern here, this works very well with the helmet here from slow time, because thanks to slow time, this shoulder will deal damage more often, and therefore these pants will also trigger more often. And I can also mention, while we're at it, that, when I use the frost field, these different effects, both the wind effect and the shock effect will trigger faster thanks to the slow time helmet. So that's why I'm using this specific slow time version. If we continue, I use the eye plucker in the first main hand slot, and what it says is that electrocute critical hits also shock enemies.
We also use these.
Takes some extra damage every second for 3 seconds. And this is of course also very strong, because this will help me to apply shock that will trigger the frost field effect. There are other ways to apply the shock effect. For example, there is a slow time helmet that also gives you an AoE effect that applies shock, but I have been doing a lot of testing and this helmet performs a lot better. In the first offense slot, I use Bluster Bauble, and what it says is that Ice Armor now conjures a violent storm around you, dealing damage to nearby enemies, but it no longer absorbs damage. So whenever I use Ice Storm now, Ice Armor, you can see this AoE effect, and this actually counts as wind damage. So you can see now that when I use
you're gonna apply like a lot of fire.
Thanks to this Ice Armor version, I will conjure this tornado that you can see now. Of course, this effect also is hastened up by the helmet, so this Ice Armor will deal even more damage. I was also experimenting with all the different versions, and this one will perform the best.
Sometimes there are some builds that, even though they may not have like the highest damage, at least they look freaking cool.
In the second main hand slot, I use Scour Cut, and what it says is that Disintegrate range is increased by 29%. So yeah, basically this AoE effect from Disintegrate will have a huge area compared to without this main hand. In the final offense slot, I use Shard Stigma, and what it says is that Electrocute also increases your primary attack speed by 6% for 3.2 seconds, and this can stack up to 5 times.
Also, we're gonna be using primary attack?
This is good at boss fights, so whenever I start attacking, or whenever I use the primary attack, you can see that I get this buff here that increases my primary attack speed, and it can increase it by up to 30%.
Alright. So, Legendary Gems.
Trigger the burn, frost.
He's using the rolling consequence. Okay, so he's going like with a normal just burst kind of thing, you know. He's not using a lot of dots or anything. Also, he's using like obviously the rolling consequence to proc all that firestorm. Then we have here, what is this?
So what different things that will activate the different frost field effects. So if we start with the slow time effect from this helmet, we have the rolling consequence dot. We have the frost field, wind, and shock effect. We have the Disintegrate. We have the Ice Armor. And also, thanks to triggering more ticks of damage, we will also deal more damage with the Grey set. So it's a very good synergy there as well. And when we talk about the frost field effect triggers, the burn effect triggers from the rolling consequence dot. The chill/freeze effect will trigger from the rune here on your main hand that says that primary attacks have a chance to reduce enemy attack and movement speed,
effect,
because this actually counts as a chill. And on top of that, you can also use the new Frostfield Terrifix that will give you an AoE chill effect that deals damage. So it's really, really good with.
Oh my god, this is actually OP. Conjures an icy whirlwind for 3 seconds, chilling enemies and dealing. So isn't this like really good for PvP also?
this build. I don't have it equipped right now, but you should get it if you use this build, if you want to optimize. If we look at the shock effect, it will come from this main hand as well, because we have this shock effect when we use the electrocute, and the wind effect from the frostfield armor.
So the rest we pretty much see. Like, if you guys want to go and check it out, like the full video of Auroth, I'm gonna link it down below. And right now I'm actually gonna go here and check it out.
Here we are in Twistrom Cathedral.
How it works, and then we're just gonna try it, guys. We're gonna try this build 100%.
My skills immediately, because I want to trigger Colossus Engine to increase my size, because then I will move faster.
Wow,
and you will see that
look at
this build is very simple to
size.
play. You can use your skills whenever the cooldowns are ready. Remember that if you're waiting for a boss to spawn, maybe you should trigger them just before it spawns, so that you have all of your legendary gem effects active during the boss fight.
Obviously, we're not going to do as much damage.
Think about it a lot. You can just spam your skills whenever they're ready, use your primary attack, and everything will work out fine. What I also like about the build is that you don't have to spam buttons. It's very simple.
Yeah,
it's a little bit
I hate spammy buttons, man. Spammy builds is not for me. I know that does a lot of damage, and I know you wizards love those things, but it's just not for me. And I had a good experience already playing Blood Knight, that you also always like, you know, do with the infinite dash. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm
less
good.
damage against single targets, as I mentioned earlier, but overall it performs very well in dungeons. And
I
also,
love the tornado. The tornado looks awesome.
FX in a challenge dungeon, you can still be useful playing this build. Because if you used to play...
Yeah, what he's saying is actually very correct. If you spam, if you're using a very spammy build, and you're trying to spam random dungeons, and you have the sacrificial power, you're done. You're done. You're not gonna do any damage. All you're gonna do is like weak, weak, weak. That's it.
The spam build.
So, chat, we're gonna try this. Go there, go to Auroth, drop him a like and a sub if you already didn't, because he makes actually great content.